It's colorful.
This is the June meeting of the Lake Mills Area School Board, and I'm Rick Mason, the president of the board. And if you notice, we're in a different surrounding tonight, and that's because we're in the city council chambers while we're waiting the renovation that's going on at the high school. So it'll be a little bit different from now on in the coming months. So our mission statement is preparing all of today's students for tomorrow's opportunities. Verification of meeting notice.
The agenda was submitted to the Lake Mills Leader on June 7th and posted at the library, post office, and Bank of Lake Mills at that time. It was also posted on the district website. On Friday, June 14th, the agenda was updated to include approval of the 660301 agreement with Johnson's Creek for early childhood special education services. And when we amended the agenda, it was reposted.
Okay, thank you. Could we rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Flag is behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Don Delaney. Here. Rachel Davies.
Here.
Robert D'Imperio.
Here.
David Radel.
Here.
Richard Mason.
Here. And any agenda revisions? I don't believe there are any.
We have just one speaker registered this evening. I don't know if you want to move that up in the agenda. She's in the audience.
We
Community
can.
input, if you want to.
We can move that up a little bit, right before the board reports. And approval of the agenda?
I would approve the agenda as recently modified.
Second.
Okay, moved and second, and all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Same sign. Okay, the agenda has been approved with the revisions, and let's move community input up to right now.
Okay, Ms. Andrea Phillipson has registered.
Andrea, would you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Andrea Phillipson Retrum. I live at W7916 Hope Lake Road.
Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Lots of emotion. I'm here today to be a voice for my son, who was involved in a recent violation of academic integrity that took place in a science classroom. I have met with the high school principal and the school superintendent. When I asked to meet with the high school science teacher, he refused. Thus, the beginning of my frustration regarding these allegations and classroom concerns. I received an email from the high school principal on Friday, May 31st, informing me that my son was in a group chat where students had shared information regarding science class, and that his consequence would be second semester grades would be cleared, meaning none of the work he had done to this point would be counted toward his final grade. The grade he received on the final exam would be his final grade, one chance, one grade. With this consequence, I ask, what are you really testing? The ability to test? The knowledge of students on the content? The ability of the teacher to teach the content? If grades end up low, is it because the students truly didn't complete the work, or perhaps that mastery of learning isn't a successful style for all students? Would this one grade be a true reflection of the knowledge these students attained for an entire semester? I would argue no. For my son, I did not worry. I knew that he had completed the content and had put in the work and effort over the semester, and he would do well on the final exam. And he did. His final exam grade was an A-. However, because of the final exam being the only grade that was being used, he was not allowed to use the other grades that he had completed during the semester. That leaving him with an A- when he could have had an A if he had made a few lab corrections that he would have made the week of exams. That A- will now forever change the fact that he had a 4.0 and no longer will. And maybe that is his consequence. After meeting with the high school principal and superintendent, I was told that the consequence set forth were based on the facts that they needed to test the knowledge of the students to find out what they had really learned. But wouldn't that be true regardless of this consequence? All students had to take the final exam. The fact is, my son was added to a group chat. He did not leave the chat once he was added. He was not involved in using the shared answer on a test that several other students had used. Students involved in the chat and not in the chat. There is no proof he was using the chat to complete his work. In the email from the high school principal, he stated himself, "It is impossible for me to disseminate who sent, utilized, or received specific tests, quizzes, or labs from the chat." Then I ask, if impossible, when and where do you draw the line on consequences and who is deserving? And the answer I was given, we used who was in the chat. However, that list was not accurate. Several students have since turned themselves in that were not included on the list provided to the school. I am not here today to argue that my son wasn't in the wrong. He was in the wrong for not leaving that chat the second he was added. But is the consequence in line with this action? To me, a more logical consequence would have been to weight the final exam more heavily than originally planned, still testing the knowledge but not discrediting all the work that student had put in without concrete knowledge of who was using the chat to complete the work. Since again, it was truly impossible to know who was really involved and to what extent. There are many more issues at hand in the science classroom that need to be addressed. The high school principal and superintendent are aware of my concerns, and I would encourage you, the school board, to explore these concerns as well. Thank you for your time and hearing my voice.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. No, how difficult that must have been for you. Are there any questions or anything from anybody? Okay, thank you. I'm going to go on to the Mr. D'Imperio and the facilities report.
Okay, since we last met, the Facilities Committee has not had a meeting. Obviously, construction has begun, and Ms. Strike has been participating in the weekly construction meetings, and I think she's in a better position to update us on the current status. And so I would ask if you could please do that.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say that the construction projects are both going very, very well. We couldn't be more pleased with the contractors that we're using, the workers that are there. It's been going very smoothly. At this point, for the addition on the front of the high school, if you can see that 3/4 of the footings are now complete. They've left a space without the footing so that they can drive their equipment in there and remove the awning. So the awning and the sidewalk underneath the awning will be removed today and tomorrow. The LMC has been completely emptied. That was a humongous undertaking. That was a huge, huge, huge project. And actually what they did is they divided the materials in the library into materials that they'll use first semester and those that they don't need until second semester. So there was a lot of sorting that was done. And so that was a pretty complicated process. The library is completely emptied, the ceiling is gutted, and the walls will be coming down soon to begin the new business classrooms in that area. The staff restrooms have been gutted. The sprinkler system is now completely installed in the upper gym. That project went very smoothly as well. The sprinkler system, they'll now be working on the office and moving into the lobby this week. The abatement in the tech ed wing is complete. There have been a few spots that have been discovered that need some small patches of abatement that's going on right now. And the tech ed wing is also emptied and ready for all the reconstruction that's going on there. And then outside, you really need to take a drive up there and see it. It's pretty impressive. The track was removed very quickly, and then all of the topsoil is now in giant mounds, ready to be taken out so that the new materials will be brought in for that field. The concession stand, the storeroom in the concession stand will become a large women's restroom. That has been gutted, and that construction has started as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. D'Imperio.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, Dr. Don Delaney, School Board Correspondence.
Yeah, let's see. We had one item. The district received a thank you note from Corey Tullis, thanking the students, staff, and district for her wonderful years of service and the gifts that she received upon her retirement.
Hey, thank you. We're going to continue. Mrs. Sivrud, the Director of Student Services, update on summer school.
Yes, so today was the very first day of summer school, and it went very, very well. I would say the trickiest thing was navigating the high school, finding the classes, because the gymnastics class is in the lower gym, and they have no access to the rest of the building. So there's walls that are put up, so you have to come in through the gym area. and then come in the front door to get into the high school classes. So kids just need to know that that's how you, that really squeaks. That's just how you have to navigate to get to the weight room and the gym, and the kids are using those back doors to get up and down. It's really great. Just to give you an idea of how many kids are participating this year, we have 264 classes signed up for at the high school. We have 2,042 classes signed up for at the middle school. We have 2,212 classes signed up for at the elementary school. Some kids sign up for 2 classes, and that might take 4 periods, depending if they sign up for, like, music theater takes up it takes up half of their summer school time. And some kids sign up for 8 classes. So I can't break this down to how many students are participating yet. I can just tell you how many classes are signed up for, and those classes come up once. We also have 189 kids signed up for swim. So we've got a lot of kids. It was really fun to see them all participating today. And I overheard one little guy say, "Summer school is so much better than regular school." And I went, yeah. It was really kind of cool to see. So they're doing really, really fun things with the kids, and that's always fun to see. Also another update to let you know is the Aoda grant that we submitted back in April sometime, I think, was approved by the state pending funding. So if the federal government approves the funding for that, we will have a $15,000 grant for the Aoda that will continue. So that's pretty awesome. I think that's it.
Swimming lessons
Yes.
at Bartles or Sandy?
They're at Sandy Beach, and they start the Monday after the 4th.
Good. After the jiggers?
Yes,
Okay, good.
as long as it warms up outside.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions at all? Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Mrs. Brockert, Director of Business Services.
Thank you. Just to tag on to what Jamie presented, also, just to let you know, we have received in the last couple of days some information on some career and technology grants. The one is based on $1,000 per student that finishes the program. And again, both of these are under, Cindy Sandberg works with us. You know, she was at our meeting a couple months ago talking about the Youth Apprenticeship Program. This is another one of those types of programs in that same area. And then we also did get some additional youth apprenticeship funding too, I just found out about today. So it is really nice that with our career and tech ed area that we're able to keep getting some additional grants. So that's always good news. The other part of my presentation is talking about the budget. And this year has been a difficult year in working on our 2019-20 budget because everything isn't settled yet at the state level. So in developing the budget this year, again, we're using an estimate. With the Joint Finance Committee at this point, they are telling us $25 increase in the per pupil aid. So that is what was used in creating this budget. So the per pupil aid is funded now at $679 per student. And we are also looking at a revenue limit increase of $175 per student. We have not seen a revenue limit increase over the last several years because the increase in our budget has come from the per pupil aid over the last several years. So this is going to be a change again that we haven't seen for a while. But that's what we're using right now because that's what is the best estimate in creating the budget. I've outlined for you the general fund budget revenue at $17,441,960 and all funds being $25,101,514. Our expenditure budget includes a wage and benefit increase of about 2.44% for the wage portion. And then as presented in previous months, we were very fortunate. Most of our benefits did not go up this coming year. So that has been very fortunate for us. We are looking at a reduction in our physical education teacher. We had a full-time teacher that's being reduced to approximately half-time. We also are looking at adding a high school assistant principal / athletic director. And then there's been some shifting in our programs. We're looking to add to our recreation program. We're looking to add the Club 55 program and some other recreation programs, and so to accommodate that, we are increasing our recreation staff. And then that provided some shifting in the business office. So, because right now, one of our recreation staff people were part business office, part recreation program. And so shifting that person to full-time in the recreation program then has allowed us to post for a part-time bookkeeper, which that person will start in July. Also, when looking at the expenditure budget, in the general fund, you'll see that the expenses exceed the revenues, and that's because when we went to referendum on a multi-use facility, outdoor facility, we planned on using some fund balance to help fund that project. So that's why our expenditures are larger than our revenues. In looking at some of the other funds in the budget, you can see that our 49 fund, which is the cost of the referendum projects, is outlined there, and that's about $9 million. So again, that'll be a reason why when you look at our total budget expenditures, it's much higher than our total revenue for all funds, because we received the funding from our bond sale in the 2018-19 year, and most of the expenses will take place in the 2019-20 school year. So looking at the 41 fund, the capital projects we're going to do this year with the $150,000 is replacing the rooftop unit or HVAC system for the auditorium in the high school, and then we're doing some repair to the tennis courts at the high school. As always, in October is when we find out our actual revenue limit calculation numbers, because at that point we know our actual enrollments from September, we know our actual general aid, and we also find out our actual equalized aid, we find out the private school voucher numbers, we find out our computer aid, and all those calculations come to, we finally finalized all that in October, so all of this will be looked at in October, reviewed and adjusted at that time. The tax levy increase, or the tax levy estimate is $10,029,242, which again will be adjusted in October when we find out all our actual numbers.
Questions from anybody? All right. The big target date is in October,
Yes.
when everything is finalized, and we're just kind of going by the seat of our pants. There is such a thing right now, and the public needs to know that, so these are all estimates at this time. Mrs. Strike, District Administrator.
Well, I have several things to talk to you about, so I'm going to do the fun things first. As Wendy mentioned, one of the projects that we've been working on for about 2 years now is to bring together city resources and Club 55, which is the program, some people call it the senior center, and the recreation department. And we're looking at how we can streamline those services and provide more things for the seniors of our community. And so we are to the point now where the city has given a loan to the Rock Lake Activity Center to do some upgrades there for potentially putting Club 55 there. That's not for sure, but that is one prong of this project. And the other thing is that we have been working with Club 55 in the Recreation Department, and it's been decided that that will now come under the umbrella of the Recreation Department. So there's some information in your packet about that. We're really excited to work with Carol Burrows and her board, her advisory board. They've been gracious and met with us several times, and I think that they're very excited about the new programming that can come with kind of joining forces there. So you're going to hear more about that. There'll be some press releases and some information. But it is separate from the project of giving money to, the city giving money to RLAC. That is a separate piece of a big project, and that does not mean that Club 55 will go there, but that's something that sometimes is talked about altogether. And I think people are a little confused between the Recreation Department and RLAC. Those are two separate entities, so I just wanted to say that. So what I'd like to really talk with you tonight is about the updates to the employee handbook. So as you might remember from last year, there are two categories of changes. One is actual changes that we want to make things more clear or to resolve some issues. And then there's another section that are just technical corrections, maybe some numbering things or some typos or grammatical things that we'd like to clear up. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. You have this whole document, but I'm going to start with the specific changes that we would like to do. So on page 4, that we have to give a notice of who people can contact if they have concerns about discrimination. We would like to take out the names of those people and just have the title. So those titles will continue to be the learning and student services person and the high school principal. You have to have 2, preferably 1 female and 1 male for people to go to. On page 7 of our handbook, we wanted to update the organizational chart. You can see that there have been some changes there in terms of adding that bookkeeper position that hopefully you'll approve this evening, and then also athletic director and assistant principal at the high school. They have been added as well. We needed to make a correction on page 45. We need to give our teaching staff the choice of having either 22 installments of their pay or 26, so that needed to be indicated in the handbook. On page 49, section 9, we talk about sick leave, and we just added a statement. As you know, we're really struggling with substitute teachers, and people can use sick leave for medical and dental appointments that they can't make outside the day. What we have added here is to say that staff members are encouraged to use the smallest increment possible for these appointments. Many years ago, it was often said if you have an appointment, take a full day because it's easier to get a full day sub. That is not true anymore. We have subs. It's really even better for us to piece small parts of subs together to create a full day. So we're asking that, we're going to try to change the culture around that, and we're asking staff members to use the smallest increment rather than a whole day for a doctor's appointment. We wanted to clarify under personal leave that it is only for teaching staff that you cannot use a personal day within the first 15 days or the last 15 days of school, so that has been added. Then again with personal leave, at this time we have something in here that says that we can have no more than 6 teachers or 6 support staff taking a personal day at one time. We'd like to change that to 5. And that again is just reflecting our limited substitute pool. If people do take things like personal days, or if there's an absence of a teacher and there are no subs, the other teachers give up their prep time to take that, and it's just putting a strain on the whole system. So really, this is to support the teachers and the other support staff as well. And we also want to add a new statement in there that says that the district reserves the right to limit personal days due to district substitute needs. And examples of that would be if we were going to have a day where we have to do curriculum work, and many teachers would be out of the classroom to do curriculum work, we would like to limit the number of personal days that could be used. Another example would be senior portfolios. You've all been involved in that process. We have 20-some teachers out of the classroom. We simply don't have enough subs for another 5 or 6 people to be taking personal days. So we want to be able to have a little bit of ability to limit the days when those people can be out of the district. We have added the new policy for the leave donation program. That's when people can donate their sick days to support someone who might be out of sick days and have a pretty significant health issue. So all of that language will be added to the employee handbook as well. Then, to make the handbook more user-friendly, we believe, we have moved all of the insurance language that was in different sections into the first section. The first section of the handbook applies to all employees. So it's really about moving that to the first part of the handbook and reflecting any changes in our insurance policy to make sure that they are reflected in the language that's in the handbook. And there are changes here, and if you have any questions, I would defer those to Wendy because she's much better at explaining all of those. Okay. That takes us, on page 67 of the employee handbook is the teacher contract. On those, on On that page is actually the physical contract as, that the teachers get each year. So there are just some changes to the contract, so we wanted to put that into the handbook as well. And again, it's reflected there that the teachers need to choose between 26 installments of pay or 22. That's on their contract, and now it's recorded in the handbook as well. We had some confusion this year when we had our weather days, and we wanted to put this in the handbook to make sure that, especially the hourly employees know that if a calendar year employee chooses not to work, they must submit a vacation or a personal day. But for hourly employees, such as the paraeducators, if any time is lost, they have the ability to make up that time. And that has always been our policy, but what really wasn't, I think we've forgotten it through the years because we haven't had snow days or weather days in many, many years. So we wanted to highlight that again, that any of those days can be made up. Then we just move into some category job changing, names of jobs. We need to include van drivers with the bus driver category because we now have so many van drivers. We needed a section that reflects crossing guard information and also the substitute caller. Then, on page 22 of the handbook, where we talk about secretaries and custodians, we have cleared up how many vacation days they can have. We just needed to clean up that language a little bit, and you'll see that reflected there. On page 123, we are talking about, we're on the co-curricular PACE schedule. We talked about at the last meeting that we'll be adding 2 assistant musical directors, so those items need to be added to the handbook, and also a middle school director of athletics. As we spoke about in finance, we're going to increase the pay for timers, scorers, and announcers, and varsity football timers and scorers, and also varsity event supervisors, so those changes are highlighted there. And a pretty significant change is we're recommending that on the professional staff compensation plan, so this is for teachers, we had 25 steps to that plan. We'd like to reduce that to 23 and delete steps 1A and 1B. So the whole chart could be renumbered, and that would raise the base pay to $39,000. Then there is another modification that we've talked about in the Finance Committee, and that is the ability of Tier 1 teachers, those are teachers retiring that are grandfathered into Tier 1 with those benefits, that they can have their medical credit payments deposited into a HRA account rather than having to have them directly paid to offset their premiums. So a little bit of flexibility there. And then that would reflect what we did to Tier 2 of that program. Finally, I believe, there are just all the technical changes everywhere that you see or extracurricular in the employee handbook. We want to call that co-curricular. We're going to alphabetize some things a little bit better. We're going to change some names from assistant drama coach to assistant musical director. We're going to change production board chair to athletic ticket sales manager because that reflects what those women actually do. And then we're just updating some out-of-date pay scale and wage schedule information. So.
Is that it?
That's all.
Any other questions at all from anybody?
When you digest all of this and you have questions, please feel free to contact me because this is considered the first reading, and then we'll take action on that next month.
Good, thank you. Does Cooper know that we're meeting down here? By the way?
I messaged his mom.
All right. We're going to go on to the consent agenda, and I want to read what's included in the consent agenda so you have an idea what we're doing and approving these all at one time. So there's approval of the May 13th regular board minutes, approval of the May 13th Finance Committee proceedings, approval of vouchers and invoices, approval of treasurer's report, approval of support staff resignations, approval of a co-curricular resignation, approval of co-curricular letters of assignment, approval of support staff letters of assignment for the 1920 school year, approval of high school handbook for the 1920 school year, approval of high school co-curricular handbook for the 1920 school year. Those are the items on the consent agenda. Do any of the board members want to pull one out or two? Or are you okay with those? All right, then I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Could we have roll call, please?
Don Delaney,
Aye.
Rachel Davies,
Aye.
Robert D'Imperio,
Aye.
David Radel,
Aye.
Richard Mason,
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Action items. Approval of professional staff resignations.
Unfortunately, at this time of year, we are looking at resignations, and we have 3 of those for you this evening.
Motion, please.
I move the board approve the following professional staff resignations and thank the individuals for their dedication to the students and community of the Lake Mills Area School District. Ms. Tammy Keel, kindergarten teacher, Ms. Vanessa Toll, middle school math teacher, and Mr. Brad Ludke, middle school special education teacher.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the professional staff resignations. Any comments or questions? Okay, could we have roll call, please?
Rachel Davies,
Aye.
Robert D'Imperio,
Aye.
David Radel,
Aye.
Don Delaney,
Aye.
Richard Mason,
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of professional staff contracts for the 1920 school year.
So we took immediate action when we started to hear about these unfortunate resignations, and so we have been hiring, and we have 4 candidates for you this evening. I think they're all outstanding candidates, and we are so thrilled with the experience that they are bringing to Lake Mills.
I'll move the board approve professional staff contracts to Ms. Sharon Kildo, middle school math, Ms. Nicole Berg, kindergarten, Ms. Alexa Resch, part-time middle school physical education health, and Ms. Tammy Grady, middle school special education, and welcome them all to the Lake Mills Area School District.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the professional staff contracts for next year. Any questions on those? Roll call, please.
Robert D'Imperio,
Aye.
David Radel,
Aye.
Don Delaney,
Aye.
Rachel Davies,
Aye.
Richard Mason,
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of the RLAC lease agreement for the 1920 school year.
This is the contract where we rent a classroom for our transition program. That's our 18 to 21-year-old program for students with disabilities, and there has been no increase in this contract for this year.
Move the board approve the lease agreement between the Lake Mills Area School District and the Rock Lake Activity Center for the 1821 transition program for the 2019-2020 school year.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the RLAC contract, the lease agreement, rather. Any questions on that? Roll call, please.
David Radel,
Aye.
Don Delaney,
Aye.
Rachel Davies,
Aye.
Robert D'Imperio,
Aye.
Richard Mason,
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of wide area network fiber-optic project.
So this is a project that we've been waiting for years. And would you like to talk about this, Wendy?
As part of the funding of this project, we sought out funding from the E-rate program, which is a federal program, and we received bids back in March of 2018. And unfortunately, with the funding process the way it went, it took about a year to find out if we'd get any funding for this project. So although we awarded a bid preliminary based on if we would get funding, we also need to get the board approval for this project. We received 3 bids in which we would own the fiber, and then we received a 4th bid where we would just be leasing the fiber from that company. And we are recommending to go with Meyer Electric Services for their bid for the wide area network project.
Motion, please.
I move the board approve the fiber optic bid from Myers Services, Inc. of Greenville, Wisconsin for the amount of $153,882.10.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the fiber optic project. Any questions on that?
I think it's important to note that the grant that Ms. Brockert mentioned is for 60% of the project, so the district expenses are approximately $60,000.
That's correct.
And this will greatly improve our computer system
Yes,
and reliability
yes.
of it. All right, any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Don Delaney.
Aye.
Rachel Davies.
Aye.
Robert Timperio.
Aye.
David Radel.
Aye.
Richard Mason.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of salary increases for staff other than the professionals teaching staff for next year.
So, Dr. Delaney, I'd ask you to step out. So the consumer price index for this year is 2.44%. And so we are recommending a 2.44 increase for each of the employee groups except the teachers. That'll be addressed in another way. I just wanted to reiterate that this does not mean that the employees are each necessarily getting a 2.4% increase, but rather their group is. And so it involves the step movement as well as pay increases per step for each of the different groups.
Okay, I'll move the board approve the presented wage increases for all employees except professional teaching staff for the 2019-2020 school year.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the presented wage increase for the employees except the professional teaching staff. Any questions on that? Comments? Roll call, please.
Rachel Davies.
Aye.
Robert Timperio.
Aye.
David Radel.
Aye.
Richard Mason.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of the preliminary budget for the 1920 school year.
So this is the report that Ms. Brockert just shared with you during her administrative report. So if you have any additional questions, she would love to answer those at this time.
And just to clarify, the total revenue for all funds is $25,101,514. Total expenditures for all funds is $34,046,669. And the proposed levy is $10,029,242.
I move the board approve the presented preliminary budget for the 2019-20 school year.
Second.
Mr. Riedel, second. Any questions, comments on that?
In terms of procedure now, we will be moving to an annual meeting in July
Correct.
where a budget will be presented. Is this the budget that will be presented, or should the legislature do something? Would you modify that?
I would have to, the thing is, with the annual meeting, it has to be posted two times before the annual meeting. So with the timeline, the way it works, this will be the budget that's presented.
This will be presented at the
Yes,
annual meeting?
Yes, and then
Thank
if
you.
there's any, known changes, I will obviously comment on it and say that'll be changed in October when the board makes the final budget adjustments.
Okay, thank you.
And the understanding is it's very, very, very preliminary at this point. Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Robert Timperio.
Aye.
David Radel.
Aye.
Don Delaney.
Aye.
Rachel Davies.
Aye.
Richard Mason.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of the agreement with Johnson Creek School District for Crossroads 2 programming.
So this is our alternative program, and even though there's a slight increase in the contract, we are actually billed only for the true cost of the program. So depending on how many students, if they have more students or we have more students, the number that you see in that contract is the maximum, and we have not paid that maximum to this point.
I move the board approve the 66.0301 agreement with Johnson Creek School District for Alternative Education, CAP, programming for the 2019-20 school year.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve the agreement with Johnson Creek for Crossroads 2. Any comments on that or questions?
Actually, I'd just like to comment that it's a wonderful program. I speak from experience, and it's great that we are able to offer this to the students and give them an option and an opportunity to get their education. And we're very fortunate to have this agreement in place.
Good, thank you. Anything else? Roll call, please.
David Radel,
Aye.
Don Delaney,
Aye.
Rachel Davies,
Aye.
Robert D'Imperio,
Aye.
Richard Mason,
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of agreement with Johnson Creek District for Early Childhood.
So for students with disabilities, ages 3 and 4, often their individual education program places them in a setting here in Lake Mills or has some programming within our elementary school, but sometimes they need a more self-contained program, and at that time, we partner again with Johnson's Creek for that. And so this contract allows us to place a student at that Johnson's Creek site if needed.
Motion, please.
I move the board approve the 66.0301 agreement with Johnson Creek School District for early childhood special education programming for the 2019-2020 school year.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the early childhood agreement with Johnson Creek School District. Any questions on that? Comments? Roll call, please.
Don Delaney,
Aye.
Rachel Davies,
Aye.
Robert D'Imperio,
Aye.
David Radel,
Aye.
Richard Mason,
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of tennis court resurfacing bid.
We were able to solicit 3 different bids for repairs on the tennis court, and we are going with the lowest bid, and the information is provided for you there.
I move the board approve the tennis court resurfacing bid to Holbrook Tennis Court Services LLC out of West Bend, Wisconsin for the amount of $44,755.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the tennis court bid. Any questions on that? When will that start?
Probably October. if the
October
weather-
some-
If the weather holds
Okay.
out. Otherwise, it'll be in the spring.
Okay. All right, roll call on that, please.
Rachel Davies,
Aye.
Robert D'Imperio,
Aye.
David Radel,
Aye.
Don Delaney,
Aye.
Richard Mason,
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of gifts. Mr. Radel, this is
Yeah.
your thing.
I move the board accept the following gifts and thank the generous donors for their continued support of the students and programs of the Lake Mills Area School District. Roger and Beth Wiedenfeld's donation of 5 acres of agricultural land to the Lake Mills High School with a value of $1,000. Becca Stein's donation of theater equipment valued at $300. Lake Mills City Band's donation of $150 to the high school music department. Waterhouse Bistro's donation of $665 to the high school's drama club for theater tickets to a live performance. Fuel Up to Play 60s Breakfast Opportunity awarded to the food service department in the amount of $4,000. The following individual donations of $100 to the high school baseball program: Nancy Latursky, Barbara Strauss, Judy Haberman, Daniel West, Elizabeth Lund, Carol Giambetti, Melissa Quest, Michael Grossman, and Nicholas Burling. The following individual donations of $150 to the high school's baseball program: Shelley Bruce and Kathleen Bruce. The following donation of $200 to the high school's baseball program: Kelly Foster and Scott and Gina Carpenter. Larry Quest's donation of $250 to the high school's baseball program. And finally, Chapter 2's donation of $2,500 to the high school's baseball program.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you for reading that long list, and thank you to all the people that donated. Any questions on that or any comments that anybody else would like to make? Roll call, please.
Robert Timperio,
Aye.
David Radel,
Aye.
John Delaney,
Aye.
Rachel Davies,
Aye.
Richard Mason,
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about Cooper Buckholz,
He is
because
coming. He got out of work late. He just texted me.
he's
so-
coming now?
He is, I asked him to
All
still
right.
come. He just got out of work.
All right, we'll wait a little bit. Now, let's talk about the future board agenda items.
Okay, so our next meeting will be July 8th, 2019. That'll come up very quickly because this meeting was late, and we'll be here again in the city chambers. Items on the agenda, I'm sure we'll have more hiring. We will have the approval of the handbook changes that lengthy list that I went through tonight. Please review that and let me know if you have any questions. In July, we also approve all the curriculum things that's required by the state in July. Ms. Brockert will have budget adjustments for us for the 18-19 school year. And then, please mark your calendar, July 22nd will be our annual meeting in the high school auditorium, and the times of that,
I just was thinking about that. Is it 7:15 for the budget?
What time do we meet? 6, 7?
I think it's 7 and 7:30.
Yeah.
But there's
it
a
was like
budget
we
hearing and
bumped
then
it
there's
up
the
to
annual
later.
meeting.
Yeah.
So 7, you think?
So 7 o'clock will be Ms. Brockert's explanation of the budget and school funding. And then at 7:30, we will have the actual annual meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
And look back to,
And that will be at the high school auditorium.
But people should park in the upper lot.
oh, okay, okay.
'Cause audit-
Because we'll need the big screen and, seating for,
Well, and our board meeting will be here, right?
Yeah.
the board meetings will continue to come.
The auditorium parking lot is now closed,
Right.
correct?
So just park in the front of the school and come in the
Oh.
front doors.
Come through the school
Come through the school.
or get a hard hat.
Nope. Completely safe there.
Okay. All right, now what do you want to do?
You can talk about Cooper if you'd like. There's lots to.
Well, I have a plaque here for Cooper Buckholz, who is the liaison to the students and the school board for this past year. And I was going to talk about how reliable he was. And this is one of many, many plaques that he received this year, among other things, which you can read about in the front page of The Leader last week. It's quite a lengthy list, and he is indeed an outstanding young person that's going on to school. And it says, Cooper Buckholz, in appreciation for your dedicated service to the Lake Mills Area School District, Board of Education, 2018-2019, presented June 17th, 2019. And I can't think of anybody better to do the job that he did this past year. So, in absentia, we give him this plaque to take home among his other plaques, many plaques. So, with that, could I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved. Oops.
Second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second, moved and second, and all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.